So edible forest gardening is the design of food-producing gardens that mimic the structure and function of forest ecosystems. And the reason we do that mimicry is so that we can gain some of the benefits that natural forests have. They're self-renewing, they're self-fertilizing, they're self-maintaining, they're stable, they're resilient, they produce clean air and clean water, they build soil quality over time, they build biodiversity over time. And I would like to have a garden like that. I assume most people would. So we're trying to design gardens that mimic the structure and function of the forest so we can get those kind of benefits but still meet our own needs. By doing that, we can regenerate the health of ecosystems in urban areas, suburban areas, rural areas, because we've damaged a lot of ecosystems, and by reinstating those kind of ecosystem functions, we can get a healthier planet while we meet our needs. So it's, you know, I mean, you can, well, the book is called Edible Forest Gardens because that's what we focus on is the food, but you can actually get a whole bunch of different products out of it, and I talked about the 7 F's: food, fuel, fiber, fodder, fertilizer, pharmaceuticals, and fun, and there's even other products beyond that. So, you know, food, obviously, fuel to help keep us warm, food, fuel, fiber for building materials, fodder for feeding animals, fertilizer for fertilizing other crops, and pharmaceuticals for medicinal plants, as well as fun, just because it's fun to do. But we focus on food because it's a basic human need, and food production is really essential in the future in the post-oil world. The hardest thing for people to grow in their own backyard is grain. And most of us eat a lot of grain. But there are crops that we can grow in a forest garden situation that are very similar to grains. Chestnuts, for example. Hazelnuts are a good substitute for soybeans. And we can grow those all over urban areas. As long as you have enough space for a chestnut tree, they get to be 50 to 100-foot diameter. But, you know, there's a lot of room where you can grow those things. You can also grow some of these things on rooftops, so it's not even limited to area where you have a lot of space. You can grow some of the trees and shrubs on rooftops. So, you know, we can get fruits, nuts, roots, greens and shoots, culinary and tea plants, and medicinals all from a forest garden. And to be able to get that range of food crops in an urban area and increase the local self-reliance, the community self-reliance, by doing that is at the same time that you actually heal the urban ecosystem and create more diversity, healthier urban runoff characteristics. You don't have as much toxic runoff going into rivers and streams. You can reduce water pollution. You can increase habitat for birds and native insects. You can create a healthier environment for people to live in. This is a site here at the Intergenerational School at Fairhill Partners it's basically an urban space. It's surrounded on 3.5 sides by tall buildings. It's got a lot of shade from the buildings, but they're working hard at putting in a lot of edible crops. They've got a little pond. We've got ostrich fern, which is edible fiddleheads. We've got a lot of lemon balm, which is going to be used as a ground cover, but also has medicinal, and you can make tea out of it that's very tasty. They're going to put in some pawpaw trees. They're going to put in some redbud, which is another nitrogen fixing plant that also produces edible pods. They've got currants and gooseberries, which produce really well in shade. Hardy kiwis, which are very high in vitamin C, really the North's answer to citrus, 10 times the vitamin C of lemons, and very tasty. And a vine to boot that you can grow up the sides of buildings. Chokeberry, which doesn't sound very good, but is very high in some really great antioxidant chemicals that really help you fight cancer, which is an issue in urban areas. I don't know, it's going to be a ton of really great stuff in here. They're just getting started. Say that the other aspect of this garden, that is great is that the intergenerational school is all about bringing kids and elders together, because it's good for the kids to have the elders and it's good for the elders to have the kids. So it's really making a lot of interconnections that are really beneficial socially as well as ecologically here. So having the kids in the garden is good for the kids, having the elders in the garden is good for the elders, having the kids and the elders together is really good. So it's really a beneficial polyculture in a lot of different ways.
In designing the garden, One of the things that we're trying to achieve here is to create identifiable patches that mimic the kind of patchwork patterns that we see in nature. In this area, it's a designated patch that is going to be mimicking the forest understory. It made sense to design the patch that way, given that we have a lot of vertical presence here of the wall and back. There's going to be trees in here that will create a bit of a canopy. And in the context of a mature forest, the ground is going to be kind of rough. So we tried to simulate that by bringing in some woody debris and taking what started out as a flat grassy surface and really piling it up with a lot of material that will add to the nutrients in the soil. Then the next step is to create ground cover. As a starter, we planted this lemon balm, which is very popular with the kids. It tastes like lemon and smells like lemons, and it grows in abundance, so it's a good starter to start getting some green into this area. And also the ostrich fern, which will grow to a pretty good size and is a hardy plant and also edible. We've tried to select edible plants throughout this garden and also in the process to look at differences in structure. So there's much more yet to go in here. So in general, my hope and what we're trying to accomplish here in my working with the Intergenerational School and the support of this wonderful community of elders and young people and professionals centered on this campus is to provide a really compelling living example of a forest garden that is serving multiple purposes. It lends itself to being a living outdoor classroom, which we were fortunate enough with the weather to be able to use it for that purpose this weekend. And it really lends itself to hands-on experiential learning, which is really important for the young kids. This is associated with a school of K through 8th grade, where the children can be learning about science, they can be learning about ecological systems and the connections. They can be learning holistically by and gaining confidence as young producers, growers. They can learn about economics in harvesting and even marketing products obtained from this forest garden. And they can also learn about the importance of thinking ahead and long-term planning as we really try to shift the paradigm towards more of a restorative model of interacting with nature.
We got to realize that we're a keystone species and that our behavior and our population has a huge impact on all the other species on the planet. But we have to take that role in a different way than we have and be in service to other species and in service to the whole, the greater whole, while we meet our needs. And we can do that, and that the forest garden can help us learn that. Because of that domination mindset that we've lived with, that we have more or less screwed up the planet. We think we're in charge, and we're not. And as we learn to be the healthy, humble keystone species, we can let go of focusing on minimizing our impact and focus on maximizing our positive impact. And if we learn how to design forest gardens the way I'm talking about learning how to design them, we will understand how to help design ecosystems, how to work with ecosystems to design them so that we're regenerating the planet and we can actually make things better for ourselves and all the other species here, with maybe a few exceptions. I mean, poison ivy is I'm not a big fan of poison ivy, but it's a great plant for birds. So I do want to leave space for it. So I don't want to make any plant bad. And that's just part of the whole attitude. The whole paradigm shift is to really acknowledge that everything has a role to play and everything has its place. And our role is to work out how to make that work for ourselves and everybody else.